Hey, so I actually did a whole video following up the last one, and my phone overheated and died. So someday I will get a new phone, and anyone who has recommendations for either a phone or just a camera to be able to use for videos like this would be great, because I know that family members from far away watch these videos, and that's mainly why we do them. So I don't know what your votes are for what the new additions are to Full and Family Farm, but you're about to find out. It's been a very adventurous week and morning with the kids, and if you watched our last video, you know we've been having lots of issues with water this past week, and then we just came out and went to refill waters and realized that one of the kids left one of the hoses on and drained the whole well dry so we have to wait for it to fill up again in order for us to do water. Since I'm going to be so glad when we're not dealing with this. So hopefully there's enough water for right now. But here's our Katahdin Dorper sheep that we've had. And Gus, who's the best boy. Who's a good boy. Gus is. He's doing so good. He gets so excited when we come home. So you can see our sheep are kind of spread up through our pasture here. You can see that I had mentioned in previous videos, we're using this cluster of trees to sort of like pinwheel our lines off of, and to set it up so that we have a rotational grazing setup. So we don't have permanent setup yet, and we're in the process of doing that. There's some expense there. So this is what we have been using. We use 3 Speedrite reels. We do have both the economy reel and these ones that are a bit more expensive, and I do like them better, but these will do in a pinch. And then we use these clips, these jumper clips that are connected to all 3 of our reels. And then we have 1 clip that comes off of our solar charger. So we have 1 solar charger that's set up on each T-post, and we clip to the T-post as our grounding rod. Although I know that that's not always the best idea to do that. That's what we have right now, and we do try to run some water at the bottom of the T-post to help the electricity work better in cases of drought like we are in right now. That can cause some problems with your solar chargers working as efficiently as they should, but for right now we've been good. So we have 1 set of 3 wires running all the way up. Let me see if I can get this. All the way up to that tree line pasture area, and then we have another 3 wires on the other side, and so the sheep have that whole space in the middle where they graze, and we put their water down at the end. They're about to get moved, but you can see that their water trough is down here at the end, and it forces them to walk like this, like up and down, and distribute their manure really evenly and make sure that they're grazing evenly, and that works for us. And then right behind the sheep, we run our dairy cow. So this is, I never can do this right. So here's Miss Tilly. She's dried off right now, and she's been running ahead of our sheep. Actually, I said behind, but she runs ahead of the sheep, and the sheep go behind her and kind of clean up what she doesn't use. And we do the same thing. We keep her water trough down here. We run her lines up through the woods. And so she has 1 polywire reel that we use. So if you had just cows, so easy. It's like 15 minutes to move her each day. So you can see that she's grazing exactly where we want her. We wanted her to like eat the tops off of this grass that's here that was just starting to go to seed, to keep it from going to seed and stimulate that growth cycle. So we have a electric charger here, one reel, and she is trained to stay in that polywire area. Then she has shade up ahead. And what you can see in the background, let me see, I don't know if I can zoom in from this area angle, is that today we got 3 South Pole cross cattle. And so these are meat cows. And one of them is a bred heifer. We named her Rosie.
She's on the right.
She is the one that just swatted some flies away. It's up on the right. And they're separated from our dairy cow just for now, while they're getting to know each other for like a day. And then tomorrow we plan on removing the electric line between them and letting them all kind of graze together. So you can see the one in the middle is Rosie, and I'll try to get another closer shot soon enough, but she is she's a bred heifer. She's due in October with her calf, and so is Tilly actually, so that we should have 2 calves in October. And then the other 2 cows are open heifers. An open heifer is a female cow that did not become pregnant when they were exposed, like, so they're an intact female cow that for some reason did not get pregnant. So we're learning all these terms. We knew nothing.
We're learning all the lingo.
we did a class with our kids today, and we were like, what's a bred heifer? And they're like, and we're like, what's an open heifer? So if you ever wanted to know, like, how new are we? Up until a few months ago, we didn't even know like what a heifer was or a steer. Like, people would talk about it here, and we're like, we sound so city because we just know nothing. But we are learning as we go. So we joke that our motto should be, if we can farm, anyone can farm, because that's literally like,
that's us.
That's us. We are farmers.
Dun, 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 dun.
So anyhow, these are our meat cows. So our plan is to give them the best possible life. We bought them from a wonderful family, a local family that lives within a half an hour of here, that I happened to meet the father through a grazing school that I did in order to apply for a USDA cost share grant to do fencing and watering systems. And they help cover some of the cost of that. Because we're a smaller farm, ironically, they cover less of the cost, but any little bit helps. So you can see right now we're just filling their water trough at the end here. Again, it encourages them to make use of the whole pasture area, and they get like a little slice of the pie of the pasture each day while we're rotating them. And so every day we move them onto fresh grass where we want them. And so it focuses their grazing in a specific area, and it helps them like eat the grass at the stage that we want it to. So I've learned a heck of a lot about how not all grass is the same. Not just what kinds of grass, but the stages of grass, and like when the forage is better and when it's more nutrient dense and when it's not. And there's so much to consider, and it's really opened my eyes to how dedicated and hardworking farmers are to maintaining their land. So we feel really blessed to have this piece of property, to be able to maintain and to try to take as good care of it as we possibly can, and be good stewards, of what we've been given. And so that includes our family. So we found out this past year that our kids have major food sensitivities, and so we've been trying to just become more self-sufficient. Anyone who's living in the world today knows that self-sufficiency is kind of a big thing, and not everybody needs to go start a farm. However, if we can do it, you can do it. And so we are practicing kind of what's called regenerative agriculture. And so if you hear the term multi-species grazing, basically what they mean is like using multiple species. We have like sheep and dairy cow and our meat cows, and I don't know if you can see them in the background, but our chickens. And they're all kind of being pastured on the same piece of property, but they're all kind of benefiting from it a different way and adding to it in a different way. And they're kind of working together in a symbiotic relationship. So these cows, our plan for them are that the 2 open heifers we had originally gotten to raise for meat, and they would be ready to harvest next spring. And that instead of contributing to the meatpacking industry, we would be giving these animals the best possible life that we can and really finishing them out on grass, and being able to provide the best possible food for our family in the process. So they will, if all goes well, we will be able to have like about somewhere closer to 1,000 pounds of meat in our freezer next year that's 100% grass finished beef. That's if everything goes well. And then our bred heifer will be giving us a calf in October, and so will our dairy cow, Tilly. So she is due also in October. The hope is that they will both give us heifers, but that's not...
Gus, leave it.
Leave it, Gus. That's not necessarily, I mean, there's nothing that you can do to control that. So if we were to get a steer out of any of them, then we would make a decision about whether we were to keep that steer for meat, or if we would sell it, or if we would, if it's Tilly's calf and he's a steer, he most likely will be an A2 registered Jersey bull. And so there is also the possibility of selling him to somebody else that's also looking for A2 milk possibilities. So we're considering all of our options. The other possibility is that when we go to breed Tilly after she's had her calf, and when we go to breed Rosie after she's had her calf, I still can't figure out this camera, we may at the same time try one more time to breed these open heifers, not with the intention of adding them to the South Pole market and selling them and marketing them as South Pole cattle, because one of the things about South Pole cattle is they typically are extremely fertile, and they're trying to keep that breed line as pure as possible, and really promote just the very best genetics. And so we would not want to add to that a couple of heifers that had any difficulty breeding. The only reason we would possibly do that would be to potentially get a couple more cows for our own personal use and consumption. And so that's a possibility. And since we're going to be breeding 2 other cows around the same time, we might try that. And that would be awesome if it took, because it would, you know, it's quite an investment to invest in your own cow and cattle. So anyhow, those are the new addition to Full and Family Farm. We have, we were so grateful that a friend of ours let us borrow their trailer today. People are just so genuinely welcoming, and
Yes, yeah.
they are so good at providing. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry. We were trying to find a place where the sun was not constantly shining on us.
Yeah.
So,
Because we're melting.
We're melting. Anyhow, why did we choose South Pole cattle? We actually live right across the street from a Hereford cattle farm. I hope our neighbor is not offended that we chose something different. But we have a small farm. You know, we have a 20-acre farm, and for people back where we're from, that seems huge. For people here, we are like tiny.
Yeah.
It's so tiny compared to a lot of the properties around here. They'll be like, oh, we have a small 100-acre farm. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ours
I have
is
no
even
idea.
smaller. But that's okay. This is perfect for us for right now. And we're so grateful.
Hmm. So we chose the South Pole because they're smaller cattle, lower framed, and
They're less impact on the land, so they're kind of gentler on your land. They're not adding as much weight. And so you could potentially over time, if we take really good care of our land, be able to stock more cattle on a smaller piece of property than you would be able to with a larger framed cow. So that's one reason we chose South Pole.
and they're good on grass only.
Right. So a lot of cows can't really be finished just on grass. But South Poles are kind of bred to do really, really well on just grass-fed genetics.
Hmm.
So that's another reason. The other reason is, like I said, not all grass is the same. And so one of the main grasses that we have here in Missouri in most pastures is fescue, Kentucky 31 fescue. And depending on where the fescue is in its growth cycle, it can actually be toxic to a lot of cattle and cause like circulatory issues and like a whole bunch of other stuff. And so there are other like endophyte free varieties and there's all this other stuff, but there's fescue does tend to be, it just thrives here. So it's extremely hardy. And so you want cattle that does really well on the grass that you have there. So whereas some cattle might do very poorly on fescue, South Poles are kind of bred to do really well here. And these particular cows are bred with, they come from a farm where they're not 100% South Pole, but are bred heifer, and the ones that the open heifers are bred from are either Black Angus or like really good beef cattle that are acclimated to this area. So they're used to the weather in this area, they're used to the grass in this area, they do really well on the forage that's here. And so you kind of want something that's climatized. You want something that's used to the area that you're coming from and that does well on it. So that's one of the other reasons we chose it.
It has a good temperament.
So they're known to be like very good temperament.
They're good mothers.
Yep.
Easy breeding and easy calving.
Yes.
They can go out and calve on their own with no assistance from humans.
Yeah, so they tend to like do really well. Like you'll go out and find that they've had their calf and without any problems whatsoever. And this particular cow that we chose has a good history. She's a little bit older.
She's bred already like 5 or 6 times.
Yes, and so that's part of the reason that we're selling her is because most larger ranches won't keep their cattle past a certain age, but these particular cows can do well calving into later years.
Well, up to 15 years.
If they're cared for. And so she's just a proven good mother, easy calver. So no major issues with that. And then they're extremely good moms. They're very mild-mannered temperaments as far as beef cattle go. Lots of good reasons. So because we're a farm with a bunch of little kids, like we really wanted, although we tell our kids to stay out of the fields and stay away from the cattle and how to behave around livestock, they're city kids that aren't, they just don't 100% get it all the time. And so we wanted cows and animals that were selected for our property that really kept all those factors in mind. They tend to be, right in the camera. They tend to be very good with like flies and pests and other things. They seem to tolerate it better, and then they tolerate the heat really well and the cold. So they're just good in this area.
Yeah.
So that's why we picked them, and they're extremely good beef. Like, so they're supposed to be like really delicious, great meat, and so we have not tried it yet. So
we'll let you know.
We'll let you know. So it's a little ways before that happens, and then cows tend to do well together. So our dairy cow was probably longing for some company, and so they will do
That's
better, be happier if they're all kind of have
Yep.
a friend. And
Definitely.
so the initial investment for our family, although it's quite an investment, it does,
It will pay off.
yeah, like over time, if they are cared for, they'll help rebuild our land, and then they also will help feed our family for years. So this initial investment will pay itself off within the next few years and help provide for our family and provide food security in time when that's something that really needs to be considered. They're also, we got them from this farm because they are already broke and trained
Oh yeah, broken train to wire.
to hot wire, and so they're used to, and they've been bred to just graze predominantly on pasture, and then they are already trained to hot wire, so we don't have to train them to that. And
That made offloading them a lot easier.
yeah, I got a video that
She made a nice video of offloading and everything, but we lost it.
It was
somehow.
so sad. It was a good video. So sorry, my arm keeps falling asleep. But we had created like a chute off like where we backed up the trailer to that just had two single lines of polywire running back to where we wanted them, and which is kind of a little bit of ways from where we were offloading them. And they immediately got off, took one look at the wire, and walked right down the lane and got exactly where we wanted them.
Yep.
They were so easy to offload, and they just
We looked like we knew what we were doing.
which we don't. But they made us look like we knew what we were doing. Thanks, cows. So and I am so thankful to the Frescoln Ranch. So Frescoln is spelled Frescoln. They are a wonderful family ranch that we picked them up from. They were really wonderful to work with and very informative. And you can tell that their cows are really well cared for, and I'm just so grateful to have found them. And they did great, just coming right onto the property. And as you can see, they are adjusting really well. Let me see. Sean's gonna move the water, but you can see that they're all kind of hanging out together. So there's our new cows, and there's Tilly. And tomorrow we'll just remove this line between them and move them over. They'll all be together. And yeah, they're doing wonderful. And so our hope is we can just take really good care of them, and they can be a great addition to the farm, and we can have them for a long time.